All right, welcome. I am Coach Jillian, and I'm happy to be here and taking you through this group coaching session today and chatting about this habit, eat 5 servings of fruit and vegetables per day, because it is a habit that's really changed my life. And I think it could change yours too, if we get some of the obstacles out of the way. So it's a practice that we hear as soon as we're old enough to remember things, eat your vegetables, and for good reason. The nutrients that are available to you in the plant kingdom are diverse and powerful and can really taste awesome as well. So this is a group coaching session for anyone who wants to learn a little bit more about how to make this habit work for you. Maybe get a little bit of extra support around the act of checking your habit card off each day, and to connect with others and tap into some of the collective wisdom that's around here today. So I see we've got a nice small group tonight, so we'll definitely be able to have some good interactions. And I want to kick this off with just a bit of a description of this habit and how we want you to think about it. So as you know, the habit is eat 5 servings of fruit and vegetable a day, colorful fruit and vegetable, at any point during the day. Now, with this habit, and with all habits we want you to do, first and foremost, move along your continuum. So if you're currently not eating many servings of fruit and vegetable per day, and I've read your intakes, there are a lot of clients who fall into this category, 0 to 1 fruit and vegetables a day. That's okay. No shame, no judgment. If you're one of those people, check off your habit if you eat even just a little bit more, even just like 1 more serving of these foods each day. Now, if you already think that you eat 5 servings each day, prove it, girlfriend. And not necessarily to me or to your coach, whoever your coach is, prove it to yourself. So use that yes/no habit card to prove it. And use this habit to really take your awareness to your fruit and vegetable intake. And if you know for sure that you already eat 5 servings or more each day, push it a little bit further. Can you work it up to 7, 8, 9, 10 servings consistently over the 2 weeks and still get your protein at each meal? What do you notice when that happens? And that's kind of a good segue to move into our first group discussion here. So I'd like to put this question out to the whole group here. What do you notice about the fruit and vegetable content in your diet right now? So not just necessarily how many servings you have, but what helps you eat more fruit and vegetable? Or when you do eat more or less of it, how does it make you feel? What do you notice? I'd love to hear from maybe 2 or 3 of you. Just make sure you're off mute. So what do you notice about the fruit and vegetable content in your diet right now?
I can speak to that. I'm Jermaine. Hi everyone. Right now, when I saw this habit, I was a little disappointed because I feel like I'm already there in terms of achieving it every day. But hearing you say to push it a little more is good. But I think I'm kind of there. I try to spread it out during the day. Smoothie, the fruit goes in the smoothie in the morning. Lunches are salads and other things with the protein in the evenings are typically a protein with either a cooked veggie or something like that. And if I am having snacks, I'll reach for fruit.
That's awesome.
So that's, yeah.
Have you been eating that way for quite a long time?
On and off.
Okay.
Right. On the good months and on the good weeks and at the good points in my life, yes. So yeah, so it's been a fairly well-established habit for me. And now it's, it's been good.
Okay, cool. Anybody
I'll
else?
Mute.
Okay. What do you notice about your fruit and vegetable intake?
I'll speak up. What I notice is I tend to kind of make the same choices all the time. Like there's maybe a handful of vegetables I like. Fruits are easier. So it's much easier to get fruits in than it is to get a lot of vegetables for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty common, I think. You stick to what you like.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this habit for you, maybe a check mark on your habit would be like trying a new vegetable each week or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else want to talk about what they notice about their intake, or how fruit and vegetable makes them feel, or when it's easy to get it in or when it's hard to get it in?
I'll go. I'm Sheena. Um, I'm kind of like Jermaine. I've been kind of eating this way for kind of a number of years, again, sort of some days better than others. So I pretty much eat the 5 to 7 servings of vegetables most day. I don't tend to eat a lot of fruit. And it was more just because of a way that I was eating for a while. I was following a specific food plan where I was eating more vegetables than fruit for just reasons of carbohydrates and sugars and that type of thing. But I just find like this time of year, like through the winter and into the spring, like I tend to eat more or less the same vegetables just because there's not a lot of choice. In the summertime, the variety is bigger because we'll go to the farmer's market. So we'll experiment and there's more options available.
Yeah, okay. I can relate to that. Thanks for commenting on that, you guys. What I notice about my fruit and vegetable intake is that they're there in my diet, and I love them as part of my diet. On a regular day, I eat a lot of fruit and vegetable, mostly vegetable, and feel really good. But as soon as I travel or get out of my normal routine, fruit and vegetable frequency is pretty much the first thing to be impacted. So I know I need work in that area. I need a little bit more strategy and a little bit more attention to that when I know times like that are coming. So we'll talk a little bit more about that after. The second question I have for you, and this is one just to think about for now, and I might ask you for your responses a little bit later, but the question is, what currently or historically has stopped you from eating 5 servings or more of fruit and vegetable each day? Just think about it for now, and we'll come back to these reasons. But in the meantime, I want to urge you to get really granular in your description of your barrier for eating 5 servings. For example, if you're thinking like lack of time is my barrier, is it lack of time to go to the grocery store? Or is it lack of time to actually prepare the food? Or maybe lack of time to eat it before it goes bad? So really try and think, what is that reason that I would not be able to eat 5 servings each day? And some of the other reasons that I commonly hear would be like lack of knowledge in how to prepare them, lack of access, dislike of fruit or vegetables, or dislike of the grocery store. So I'll give you a second here to think about it and just consider it. And we'll talk about some ideas a little bit later. All right, so we'll move on. I have a friend, her name's Molly, and she's a naturopathic doctor, and she has patients who she makes the recommendation to have fruit and vegetables to her patients all of the time. And she has a huge tension when her patients come back to her a few weeks later having not done it, and usually asking for a supplement recommendation for the vitamin or mineral that they're low in. And it's really disheartening to her and hard for her to understand. Her big question is, why don't they just do what I'm telling them? And the problem as I see it is she's not really coaching her patients to change their behavior. She's in the business of giving instruction, but not really facilitating the change. And that's the gap that I think that PN bridges really beautifully. We're teaching you the how, and giving you the time and space to practice doing it. So I have a lot of understanding and compassion for her, of course, because she's my friend and she honestly wants her patients to get better. But I would say I have as much or more understanding and compassion for her patients because it is hard. It is extra work to change and incorporate more fruit and vegetable for the most part. Sometimes when it really comes down to it, you might not actually know how to do this or how to get started, and that's okay. So when you were thinking about that barrier question, did it come up at all in your mind? Like, gosh, I actually don't know how I could get more servings of fruit and vegetables in my day. I think I'm already doing good. I don't know how I could do this better. So the how is the hard part. The how to do it when you're not busy. How to do it when you are busy. How to do it when you're stressed or when you're on the road. So let's go back to that question now. What are your barriers, or what has held you back historically or is currently holding you back? I'd love to hear from a couple of you. What are your barriers to eating?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Leslie.
Hey, everybody. This is Assistant Coach Leslie. Just jumping in. I'll tell you what I hear from some of my own clients as well. And that is they think that when they increase, until they think it, they know it, they get more gas. They get gassy. And so it's very uncomfortable to increase too many fruits and vegetables all at the same time because their digestive system isn't used to handling different types of vegetables, whether that's raw or cooked. And sometimes I think that barrier is like raw vegetables bother them, so they think all vegetables bother them, or cooked vegetables bother them, so they don't want to try raw. So it can get kind of sketchy in trying to figure out what is the right number for my digestion so I'm not in some public place and I have this stinky gas. Just seriously, I mean, that's just as real as it gets, I think. But this habit does tend to bring that out, no pun intended, a little bit more than maybe some others.
Yeah, good point. So as their coach, what do you have them do?
I just tell them to usually try one at a time. Maybe one new vegetable this week, see how it sits with their digestion. Maybe one fruit, one vegetable that might be that they know they've had success with in the past. They just maybe haven't eaten it for a while. Or to try, maybe they don't like cooked carrots, but they're willing to try raw carrots. But I try not to move them too fast up from, just like you said earlier, if you eat 2 servings of vegetables, maybe 3. Mm-hmm. And then 3, if I'm comfortable with 3, then I'll move to 4. But to go from 2 to 8 or 9, that tends to upset the GI tract for most people, at least my people.
Yeah, that's a great point. Has that been a barrier for any of you guys? Some yes, some no. Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely been one for me in the past, and so that was one on my list.
Okay.
Another one on my list was that I get into a rut and I use the same ones all the time, and I cook them the same way all the time. So I want to try something different, but don't know how or what to try sometimes.
Okay. Yeah, excellent. So tomorrow, there's a lesson that's coming out. It's titled "How to Cook and Prepare Fruits and Vegetables," or something along those lines. Some form of that title. And there was a PN article that went out today. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I know we'll be posting it on Facebook pages on how to prepare fruit and vegetables. So that information is coming, but yeah, I can see that being a barrier. So Michelle, just kind of based on those couple barriers you mentioned, what do you think the next step for you is?
Well, I've noticed, like, I guess when I started doing vegetables, I've done the program before. And when I started doing it before, I think I did too much at once. Like you were saying, you moved from 2 to 9 or whatever. I think I did like big salads and and I'm trying to focus more on the 80% this time, because I had a hard time with that as well last time. And I'm noticing it's a little bit less because I'm not eating as many at one time. So it seems to be a little bit better this time.
By 80%, do you mean eating to 80% full or 80% kind of compliance to the habit?
Eating to 80% full.
Okay.
I don't know, I get in my mind like it's a big salad, so it's healthy, so just eat it all. And, you know, then it would make me bloated and gassy. And so I'm trying to really focus on the eating slowly to 80% more this time.
Okay. Sounds great. Anybody else want to talk about your barriers here a little bit?
I can share. My barriers are much more emotional, I think, and much more from like childhood on. You know, we didn't have access to a lot of that stuff when I was growing up. And I remember my parents' rule was like, well, if you eat a spoonful of vegetables, you have done a great job. And that is all you're required to do. That is all we had. So it was fine. And all our vegetables were canned vegetables. And you only got fresh fruit that wasn't apples on your birthday because, like, that's what you had. And so this whole idea of being a person who eats fresh fruit and vegetables is just so uncomfortable. It just feels very much like I'm not that person. You know, I'm not this person who is like this fancy pants person who has all this stuff and who can just have that extravagance of eating that with every meal. And I'm definitely struggling a lot with that right now.
Yeah. Can anybody relate to what Julie's saying there? Do you share kind of that barrier?
I think for me, I can see where financially it can be a hardship for some people because fruits and vegetables are not inexpensive, and also the seasons. I think I grew up in the same household as the last speaker did, in Iowa maybe. But my thinking is that, you know, we had like canned fruit for dessert. That's how I grew up, and it was apples, and if we were lucky, we got oranges during the week.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is a new kind of world for you.
Exactly.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm really glad that you brought that up. So what do you think, for both of you guys who just spoke on that, what do you think the next step is for you, or what do you think you need to do now in order to move along your continuum?
Well, I'm at a point now where we can afford to buy fruits and vegetables and things like that, but it is the mindset, you know, of how you grew up, that can be the barrier.
Yeah, Julie, do you have any comments on that? How do you think you can kind of move forward from that?
I've been talking a lot with friends and like getting their support and saying, you know, I don't want to be this, well, to be blunt, jackass that I have this mental image of someone who's got all this privilege and is just not thoughtful. And so they are helping me with that and promising that they won't let me do that. And I've tried the rip the Band-Aid off approach, and I'm not worrying about getting, you know, the green ones, but the other colors of the rainbow I'm working with, and just trying to do that one day at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And it will be one day at a time. It's all about this journey. And, you know, times are different now, and you're definitely in a different stage of life where you can make the choices. You can decide what it is that you want to put on your plate. So you're in a very empowered position, I think. So hopefully you can feel comfortable making the best decision for you. One more question that I kind of have for you guys. Eating fruits and vegetables is hardly an out-of-the-box concept or new nutritional strategy for most of us. This recommendation has probably been around as long as you have. So what have you tried in the past in health kicks that you've gone on or diets that you've been on before to increase your consumption of fruit and vegetables? I know one of you, I think it was Michelle, said before you just took it right up. You just added all of them in right away and got some side effects. But I'm wondering specifically what worked to get you to eat more fruit and vegetables when you've tried in the past, or what's working now?
I'll go with that one. For me, it's learning how to cook vegetables. I also grew up with a mother who was not a great cook, and vegetables came in a can, and they were really good when we had the frozen ones, but I don't remember ever having fresh vegetables in the house except for maybe carrots and iceberg lettuce. So as an adult, when I started cooking for myself, it was just something I started to do, and I tried new vegetables and tried different ways of cooking them. And my favorite way of cooking vegetables is roasting them, putting them on a roasting pan, a little bit of olive oil, salt and pepper, throw it in the oven, anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes, depending on the vegetable. And they taste as amazing as anything can be. Brings out the sweetness. And I do that with everything. And that's been a real key for me.
That's my favorite way too. So good. Hot or cold?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Anybody else want to talk a little bit about what has worked for you?
This is Grace.
Hey, Grace.
Hey, I'll talk. I think that hiding vegetables and anything else has worked for me. So, adding, or not necessarily hiding it, but just sometimes obscuring taste of things that I was super opposed to, like, the Brussels sprout crave that came back a few years ago, all worked because of the bacon and Brussels sprout combination, because, who would ever eat Brussels sprouts? And then recently I really like, for example, grits for breakfast, and I pureed like 3 cups of spinach and used that to make green grits. Who would have thought? And so stuff like that, which I think I would have never tried. So I've been doing a lot of like pureeing vegetables and throwing them into other things, and chopping things up and just toss. So just kind of, just a lot of combining things together, especially when I'm a little wary of certain vegetables, because I'm not necessarily a huge fan.
That's
just me.
great. That's awesome. And that would probably work really well for any of the moms who have picky kids. Might be a great tip for you too. Not saying that you're a picky kid, Grace. Anybody else want to speak to that before we move on?
I will. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Harriet.
Okay. What's been working for me lately is I started having protein shakes for breakfast, and I always put 1 or 2, usually 2 helpings of fruit in there, and then I found out that you could throw in handfuls of spinach leaves, and I had never thought of that before. And so sometimes I've done that, and I don't notice them at all. And I mean, I like them in a salad, but I'm not huge on spinach other ways. Well, I've liked spinach souffles and things, but I haven't had any of those lately, and I'm not likely to, because they're all full of other rich stuff. But and I've been going to one of the services that supplies like food packs. I mean, I'm using Blue Apron, and they send you every week a box with all the ingredients for 3 different dinners with two servings each. And then you're supposed to, if you're a single person, you have to eat one of them for either a second night's dinner or for lunch the next day or something. But they have all kinds of interesting vegetables and stuff in there that I had never really run across before, like fennel and bok choy and other things. And it's been a revelation. And they also have very, simple and direct, and with pictures, directions on how to cook the stuff, and condiments and stuff to mix with them, like mirin, or different kinds of or rice wine vinegar, or things like that. And it's amazing.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So outsourcing.
yeah. So now I want to get some of the ingredients that they use with some of the dishes I've had recently, and I've got a couple of things on order from a health food store that are like Japanese things. Like there's a barbecue sauce, and there's a rice wine thing, and so forth. And I want to, then I can make things myself without having to wait for them. And I have several nights a week where they don't supply me anyway. So anyway, so and I thought that article or lesson or whatever it was that I did see online somewhere today, and I think I saw it in the archive of articles on the blog or something, but about how to prepare vegetables, and how to dividing them up into 3 kinds, and with all the things, which I guess we're going to find out about tomorrow. I thought that was fabulous and very informative, and things that I would never have guessed. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, we'll make sure to get that up on the Facebook pages tomorrow if you're not on PN's mailing list and it didn't come to your email today. That was actually authored by Jennifer Nichols. She's PN's chef. She's our in-house chef. She actually travels around with some of the athletes that we work with and cooks for them. So it's cool to see her creating that article for us. All right, thanks so much for sharing, you guys. I wanted to...
Hi, this is Lisa.
Hey, Lisa.
Hey, sorry. I'm actually shopping at Trader Joe's right now, but I did want to add something that I think you were talking about your friend, the naturopath, and her challenges with clients feeling comfortable with taking their own power in the process. And I feel like the habit we got so early about eating mindfully is the key of everything, because I'm looking at food as fuel. And I too grew up in a house where vegetables and healthy eating were not about pleasure and enjoyment and feeling strong and connected to the earth. And that's what I'm trying to focus on. The other thing I wanted to say is that the challenge with 5 servings is, for so many years, and I haven't dieted in probably 20 years, but that whole idea about how much food is enough or too much, or eating so much, or so much focus on food, that my continuing challenge is to eat whatever it is I'm eating mindfully and enjoying. And the rest just sort of takes care of itself, though, when I'm really just thinking in terms of vegetables as being my main source. and lean protein, but really making it about vegetables, as I agreed with Shelley about roasting vegetables, and that it's about enjoying it and feeling good, and not spending so much energy on food so much, except as a pleasurable relationship.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, it is in your power, and it is the frame that you choose, how you choose to view your relationship with food.
Mm-hmm. It's nurturance,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great point.
I just wanted to jump in on that. I was thinking about, I struggle with the 80% full, and then we're talking about the veggie things. And I work with Coach Tony, and she had said that instead of maybe the 80% full, because I look at my plate and I just take off 20%, maybe working on the fully satisfied part of it and having more of a focus that way. But then I struggle with, am I eating for enjoyment, or am I eating to nourish my body?
Okay.
Can it be both? Like, can't it be and?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I have to think about that.
Well, I just know that my life is really about enjoyment, and enjoyment of myself in this process too, So you know, it is a lot of old rules and old ways of thinking. And that's also a thing that I'm appreciating about this small habit building.
Right, right. I can understand that. I just think that a lot of times so many memories and stuff from our past are always so centered on food.
Yeah.
That I want to find a different way to think about food instead of being, you know, always planning or always thinking about what I have to do next to be successful with what I eat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and learning to kind of just trust what your body tells you in the moment and trust that it will tell you something that's productive. That can,
And stopping to listen to it.
yeah, that can be a real change for a lot of people.
Right, right.
Thanks so much, everybody, for your comments. I'm just going to press on here a little bit, move on to the next topic. I see I'm kind of getting into bad sun here, so if you can't see me very well, maybe I'll sit back here a bit. I wanted to speak for a minute here just about access, which somebody brought up a little bit before, access to fruit and vegetables, so because this can be a real issue for some. And I had a client last year actually who lived in a little Inuit community in Nunavut, which is like the severe north of Canada. And they had their food flown in and it was so expensive. And by the time it got to her, it was not really looking that nice. So this challenge was just hugely challenging for her, this habit. So what did she do to get her check mark each day? She did her best. She tried for 1 serving a day. That's what she allocated a check mark for. And that's where you may choose to start yourself if access is an issue, or if you don't really like fruit or vegetable, or you're not used to eating a lot each day. And that's a little bit of an extreme example, but for anyone who works at a site or a camp, or someone who's living in a foreign country, or even just traveling, or even somebody who's totally not used to eating in this way, like you guys were mentioning with the way that you grew up. This is the way to move forward with it. Just do a little bit better. And I want to make something clear on this point. You're not cheating if you eat canned or frozen or vacuum sealed or some other way of preserving fruit and vegetable. That's no problem here. They count. Maybe there is a slight difference nutritionally, but it's going to be negligible. Read the ingredients on the can. Try to choose the one with the least amount of additives and preservatives. Check the expiry date and the integrity of the can, and just go to town. If you have the option of getting these in your day, go for it. So other tips and tricks to get more fruit and vegetables in your day, have a super shake, like Harriet mentioned, and add some vegetables to your shake. Like Shelley said, and like one of the other speakers, roast a bunch of vegetables maybe on the weekend. Perhaps they can last you all week, depending on how big your roast is. And they're excellent, hot or cold. Steam up some spinach or some broccoli. It just takes a couple minutes, maybe adding butter and salt like Jessica for a couple nights this week. Vegetable soups. You can put like any vegetable, almost any vegetable in a soup and puree it up. So be experimental with that. And like I mentioned, tomorrow's lesson will teach you a little bit more how to prep and cook your vegetables. But it starts with that one step toward that better end of your spectrum. There's lots of things you can do. Yeah.
Sorry, can I ask a question? Mm-hmm. I'm going to make my first super shake tomorrow, and I bought a bag of spinach. Do you de-stem it, or does it all just go in and it'll all puree up?
Yeah, if you bought the bag, it's probably cut pretty close to the end of the stem. Hey, maybe just a couple inches.
Yeah.
Yeah, just throw it all in.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Enjoy. Okay. On here. So if you are joining us in watching the recording, we just did a little bit of work in breakout rooms to come up with a couple of menus that included 5 servings of fruit and vegetables, plus servings of lean protein. And now we're coming back into the main session here, and I would love to hear from a couple of people that were in the different groups And here are some of the menu that you came up with. Who wants to start us off?
I'll start. We didn't really come up with like a specific menu for a day. Instead, we kind of came up with menu ideas, what we could have at each meal to try to get as many fruits and vegetables in. So like for breakfast, it was like smoothies or fruit with yogurt or cottage cheese and whatever else you might want to put on for toppings to make it nice and tasty, or an omelet with, or you could do scrambled eggs like with lots of vegetables. Then for lunch, it was salads or leftovers, or doing something with a pita where you can put in a protein and then lots of vegetables in it. And then for dinners, kind of anything like stir fries, chilies, soups, just, a protein and some vegetables. What else do we have? I think that was about most of it.
Okay. Anybody else want to add?
We had a lot of the same ideas, like starting with a super shake with blueberries and spinach in it, with a snack in the morning of like some nuts and hummus with some fresh vegetables like red peppers and carrots and celery, a salad for lunch, either yogurt or cottage cheese and fruit for an afternoon snack, and then dinner, something like a piece of fish with roasted asparagus or broccoli.
Sounds good. And things like that are great to take in your lunch the next day. Anybody have anything else that they want to add to these lists? I know it's a lot of us probably did have the same ideas. This would have been right along what I would think too. Anybody ever made like their own ice cream in a Vitamix or in a high powered blender with fruit and vegetables? You can put vegetables in your ice cream. There's
I've
another
sometimes
idea.
had it come out almost frozen. I'm not quite sure what I did to achieve that because other times it doesn't happen. I mean, maybe it's the number of ice cubes I put in.
Could be, not too sure.
And I think it works better with dairy. Seems to freeze up better.
Okay. Good to get that feedback. All right, guys. Well, thanks for doing that. Hope you found that kind of enjoyable and helpful. We'll move on to our next section here, and I'm just going to launch the poll, the exit poll. You might see it pop up on your screen, and if you do, go ahead and answer it. If you don't see it, not a big deal. We're going to move into a question and answer period for the next 10 minutes. So anything that you've kind of been wondering about with this habit, or anything that's on your mind that you want to ask about or get support around or learn from others, now is the time. I always think if there's no questions, that either means I did a really good job or a really bad job.
All right, I got my pan out. I've got my olive oil, and I've got my veggies on the pan. What temperature do I roast veggies at?
Nice one.
And for how long?
I want to give this one.
Sorry.
Oh no, you go ahead, Shelley. I was going to say you or Leslie.
I do it all the time. Yeah, I do it mine at 450, and the amount of time depends on the vegetable. Like asparagus might be 20 minutes, cauliflower might be 30, Brussels sprouts 35, 40. So it all depends, and just check it from time to time and see when it's soft.
Okay, so here's my concern with the olive oil. Olive oil has like I don't know if they call it a burning point or whatever it is, that it turns into a trans fat, or it becomes bad for you at that point, or unhealthy. So I'm wondering, maybe if I should use a lower temperature and leave it in longer?
I like to go with 400 degrees with my olive oil, but I also use an avocado oil sometimes.
For
Tonight,
the higher heat.
so I usually go around 400, and I start checking. Like I've got stuff in the oven right now that I've gone back and forth to as our meeting's gone on, and I've got Brussels sprouts, asparagus, tomatoes, and bok choy in roasting right now. I know that the tomatoes are just going to be smush. They're just there for flavor. But Brussels sprouts I've sliced to be about the same size as the asparagus. So sometimes it really depends on how you've sliced your vegetables and how thick they are. But just like Shelly's saying, it also depends on if you like them soft or if you like them crisp. I like mine a little crisper, so I don't put them in as long. But really, that's going to be a personal preference.
Okay.
But what I'm seeing in the chat box, I'm seeing temperatures from 350 to 400, and then Shelly, she likes hers at 450. So a lot of that comes with personal preference, and you're probably going to screw up a couple of recipes.
Okay.
But that's okay, because then just stick it in your blender in the morning. It'll be fine.
Okay. Thanks.
And I know what you're meaning about the smoke point there, Jamie. Yeah, it's true. Avocado oil or even coconut oil have a higher smoke point than olive oil. But it's you're not going to be using a lot. It's not like a full serving of fat that you're going to be having. We have a fat habit that's actually coming up where you'll learn a lot more about that. But for roasting, I really don't worry about that at all. If you want to try for a higher smoke point oil, go for it. But when it's just a little bit of olive oil, just to kind of season your vegetables, I don't worry about that at all.
Okay.
There was a recipe. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you go, Michelle. Sorry.
I was going to say, there was a recipe that a friend had that was really good. And it was like, I think it was sweet potatoes and yams chopped up into I should say diced, I guess. With onions and oil, and then they roasted it, and then they mixed in black beans and I think it was like a taco seasoning type thing. You could probably do your own to make it healthier, but it was really, really good. I don't know. I just throw that out there. It was tasty with all that together.
Have you tried it to make it?
It's really good. She didn't really give me amounts, so I just kind of tossed stuff in here and there, but yeah, it was like, kind of like a roasted Mexican thing. It was really good.
I have kind of a similar recipe with where I shred it and do like a sweet potato hash with like hot pepper and stuff to make it have a nice kick.
That would be good.
Yeah, there is so much good stuff. And like going to restaurants now, I've found, and I don't know if this is just a factor of going to more restaurants now that I'm older, but there's so much wonderful vegetable food there. Like so much experimentation is happening, and so many chefs are using a ton of vegetables and kind of exotic vegetables and stuff. So I guess it depends where you're eating, but there's a lot of stuff out there. Any other questions or anything that you guys want to chat about tonight?
So one thing I've noticed this last 2 days is eating some of the fruits and vegetables has replaced other things that I would normally eat. And at lunch, this is leaving me feeling very spacey, kind of like, just like, I don't know if fruit's not the right thing for me to eat at lunch or what, but I just end up kind of just like zoned out. Oh, spacey is the right word, for like an hour or so afterwards. I don't know if anybody else has that experience or if I just need to eat more and eat some of the other heavier things to kind of balance that out or what.
Well, if it's a different diet, then yeah, you will notice something is different in your body for sure. What is it that you've taken away in order to accommodate for more fruit and vegetables?
I've taken away usually some like bread type thing that I used to eat a lot of carbs. That was just kind of been the building blocks, that type of thing. And that's been replaced because we got to keep the protein. So That's where I am.
Can I spoil the next habit for you?
Sure.
It's carbs. So we're going to go there next. For now, for the next 2 weeks, Julie, I'd say maybe just keep noticing, maybe try and eat more starchy vegetables, like more things like potatoes, stuff like that, that maybe will help you stay a little bit more grounded, and maybe eat a little bit more frequently if you feel hungry. Just see what kind of happens there. Use this as your experiment ground for the next 2 weeks.
I can share something real quick, if that's okay, about that. I noticed, because I used to eat a lot of sugary, sweet things, and I noticed like it would do the sugar jolt and then drop kind of thing. And so when I started eating a little bit healthier, I did kind of get that little spacey a little bit first, kind of like almost like it's just a different energy type thing, but it kind of evened out after a little while. But it was like I was so used to the up and down, like go up and then crash type of thing. So I don't know if it's the same thing, but that's kind of something that I noticed. But.
Great, thanks for sharing. And one thing I wanted to make sure that I talked about here is, yeah, the habit is eat colorful fruits and vegetables, and white is a color. Okay, it's not the color that's the most rich in phytonutrients, but it's definitely a color. So your bananas, your cauliflower, yeah, they all count.
That's great to know, because I always omitted the white ones, because I think in the lesson it says that those don't count.
We want the colorful ones ideally, but if you're going to get a white one and not get a colorful one, we'll always take that.
Okay, so I can go back to my roast cauliflower, because that's probably my favorite. Good.
Awesome. Anything else anybody wants to bring up here? Well, if not, I'd just like to thank you all for coming. It was so nice to see you, and really great to have some of that great conversation today. Nice to hear your voice and hear your opinion, what works for you and where you need to work a little bit more. So I want to, as we close here, I just want to put this out to you. If there is one thing that you could take from this group coaching session today, what is it? What are you going to use? What's going to help you? You don't have to comment on it, or you don't have to write it in the chat box. I just want you to think about it just before we leave here. What are you going to take? All right, and on that note, I will let you loose. Have a great rest of your night. Good luck with the rest of your habits. And yeah, reach out to your coaching team if you have any other questions or if you need any hands. We're here for you. And thanks so much for coming. Wonderful to see you. Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.